Of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few pitchers I would look to buy low and trade for this week. The first guy, Zach Gallen, of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Gallen, obviously, he's on the worst team in Major League Baseball this season, but I still think he could go out there and give fantasy owners quality starts and some victories along the way as well. So far in the season for Gallen, 39 innings, 1-3 record, 31 hits, 16 earned runs, 4 homers, 18 walks, 46 strikeouts, a 3.69 ERA, and a 1.26 whip with 2 quality starts. But the last couple weeks here, since he returned, 12 in the third inning, 0-2 record, 13 hits, 7 earned runs, 3 homers, 4 walks, 14 Ks, 5.11 ERA, a 1.38 whip, and no quality starts since he returned is Gallen in the last few outings here. So Gallen, like I mentioned, his value's super low right now. He's on one of the worst teams in baseball this season, and right now I don't think you got to give up much to get him at all on your fantasy roster in the next couple weeks here. And Gallen, he was a high draft pick this season, 5th to 6th round we saw him go in most fantasy drafts, but right now he's just not pitching well, but I think he could turn it around. He's got good stuff, and right now, like I mentioned, you don't have to give up much to get him. So the last few outings for him, June 17th, in his return at San Francisco, 2 2/3, got the loss, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, a homer, a walk, 3 Ks, a 13.50 ERA, a 1.88 whip. Then June 22nd versus the Brewers, 5 innings, got the loss, 3 hits, only 1 run, a homer, 8 strikeouts, a 1.80 ERA, and an 0.60 whip. And then June 27th at the Padres, 4 2/3, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, a homer, 3 walks, 3 Ks, 3.86 ERA, and a 1.93 whip. So right now, he's not going deep into games, but we've seen upside from him as well with pretty good strikeout numbers. And he's had tough matchups. Obviously, the first 3 games returned, San Francisco there in first, Milwaukee there in first, and San Diego. They were a good ball team, no doubt about it. And his next outing's tomorrow, July 2nd versus San Francisco. But right now, I think it's a perfect time to go out there and buy Gallen low. The next pitch is Blake Snell of the San Diego Padres. So a few times this season, Snell has been on the buy low list, and it's been a tough season for him. And now he's on the injured list with a stomach bug here, and they're taking precautionary measures of the Padres. And maybe he'll only be out a week or 2 with Snell. But right now on the season, 66 in the third, 3-3 record, 63 hits, 39 earned runs, 10 homers, 40 walks, 90 strikeouts, a bad 5.29 ERA, and a 1.55 whip with 2 quality starts on the season. And the last couple weeks for Snell, 19 in the third, 2-1 record, 10 earned runs, 2 homers, 9 walks, 20 strikeouts, a 4.66 ERA, and a 1.45 whip with a quality start. So those numbers, they're not much better in my opinion. But Blake Snell, in my opinion, is too good of a pitcher not to be pitching at a high level and not to be pitching good, especially on a good hitting and all-around baseball team like the San Diego Padres. And right now, you don't have to give up much to get him. And with the injury added onto it, even though it's just a stomach bug supposedly, I think it's a great get in Blake Snell right now, that he can return maybe refreshed and pitch well. The last few outings for him, June 11th at the Mets, 4 innings, got the loss, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 Ks, a 6.75 ERA, and a 2 whip. June 16th at Colorado, 3 1/3, 9 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 homers, 2 walks, a K, 18.90 ERA, and a 3.30 whip. And then his latest outing, June 22nd, versus the Dodgers, he finally pitched well, 5 innings, got the win, 4 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 5 Ks, a 1.40 whip. But even with a good outing there, he still didn't go 6 innings, he still didn't get the quality start. And right now, I don't think you got to give up much at all here to get Snell in a deal. Many Snell owners, they're probably frustrated with the struggles this season, where they thought he'd be a great player and maybe a Cy Young candidate with him on a good club like San Diego. But right now, that just hasn't been the case. But I think he could turn things around, and he's a buy low candidate. The next pitch is Steven Strasburg of the Washington Nationals. So Strasburg, he's been hurt just about the whole season here. And the numbers for him, 21 2/3, 1-2 record, 16 hits, 11 earned runs, 4 homers, 14 walks, 21 strikeouts, 4.57 ERA, and a 1.38 whip with a quality start. So right now, Strasburg, he's not producing, obviously. He's been on the injured list, and his last outing was a month ago on June 1st, and right now, the latest reports on Strasburg with his neck strain is he's only throwing bullpen sessions here at the Nationals Park. So in my opinion, he's going to probably take a few more bullpens. He'll go out there and throw, and then maybe 1 or 2 rehab starts, but he'll be out probably after the All-Star break. But this guy, if he could get things right and stay healthy, I definitely think he could be a second-half factor for fantasy owners. And this is the time to go out there and trade for him. While he's been hurt just about the whole season, and while his value's at an all-time low, you could get him on the low and get potentially an ace or a number 2-3 starter for your fantasy roster, especially with the Nationals starting to hit and get things going back in the NL East here. I think this is a good time to get Strasburg, even though he's obviously annoying to own on your fantasy roster with the injuries and the games where he gets bombed sometimes. But right now, I would go out there and try to make a deal for Strasburg with the value low. The next pitcher is Chris Paddock of the San Diego Padres. So Paddock, he's been on this buy low list a lot this season here from week to week. On the season for Paddock, 66 innings, 4-5 record, 69 hits given up, 34 earned runs, 9 homers, 16 walks, 70 strikeouts, a 4.64 ERA, and a 1.29 whip with 4 quality starts on the season. And the last couple weeks here for Paddock, 7 1/3, 1-0 record, 14 hits though, 7 earned runs, 3 walks, 13 strikeouts, 8.59 ERA, and a 2.32 whip. So right here, this guy a couple seasons ago, I mentioned this a lot, when he came up, he looked like a true ace and going to be one of the best pitchers in all the National League, but that just hasn't been the case for him this season. But he's had mixed games where he's pitched gems, and then games like the other night on June 25th where he got bombed versus the worst team in baseball in Arizona. So June 13th at the Mets, 6 innings, got the win, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, a home and 9 Ks, a 3 ERA, 1 whip and a quality start. June 18th versus Cincinnati, 5 innings, got the win, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk, 11 Ks, 3.60 ERA, 1.40 whip. And then June 25th versus Arizona, 2 1/3, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 Ks, a 19.29 ERA, and a 4.29 whip. So right there, that's a bad thing, no doubt about it, for Paddock here, where he's definitely struggling right now. And he's had great games and bad games, and hopefully he could just find the middle right now, where he's going to be steady and go 5-6 innings a game with only 3 to 4 runs at most. But right now I would buy him low. Paddock owners, they're frustrated what he's doing, and he's even been dropped in 3% of fantasy leagues this week, and we'll see what he can do in his next outing at Philly July 2nd. But right now, after getting bombed bad versus Arizona, this is a perfect time to get him on a little bit of a discount. Is Paddock, and the 5th and final pitcher I look to buy low this week's Jack Flaherty of the St. Louis Cardinals. So Flaherty, he was a great pitcher before he went down with the oblique injury, and he's another guy that I expect him to be back after the All-Star break, where the Cardinals aren't going to rush him. And obviously it's a serious injury over the last few seasons, is the oblique around Major League Baseball. On the season for Flaherty, 62 innings, 8-1 record, 44 hits, 20 earned runs, 7 homers, 20 walks, 67 strikeouts, a 2.90 ERA, 1.03 whip, and 7 quality starts. So obviously he was an ace of this staff, and an ace for fantasy baseball owners was Flaherty. But now we haven't seen him since May 31st, which was a month ago already. And like I mentioned here, he's a guy that's going to be out to the All-Star break, or even till August for all we know here with this oblique injury. So right now, while he's been idle for a month, and while there's been no news on Flaherty in the last couple weeks here, this is a perfect time, just like the Strasburg situation, to go out there and get him. Because if you can make a deal for him and get him on a discount, you're adding pretty much an ace or also a number 2 starter to your rotation in your fantasy league. And these are the type of deals that can make or break your season sometimes, where you take the risk and you get an injured guy and hope he responds when he comes back from injury and pitches well. But I think Flaherty will be well, and this is a time to get him while there's no news on him and the value's low. So that's a few pitchers I would look to buy low and trade for here in Week 13 of the fantasy baseball season.